People have decided they want the landline back. Just got to call my mum to come and pick me up. Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Moment. Hope you've had a good little break. Even though I know this comes out on a Tuesday, it just feels like after the weekend for me. Hope you are fine, feeling fine, looking fine. Lots of cultural news to discuss today. Lots of really interesting tidbits for you that I'm sure you'll be desperate to know about. I'm going to start with something that's rather lovely and something that'll tap into those parts of our brain that have a lot to do with nostalgia and memory. There's a great article up on the ABC website. If you're interested, you can go and have a read. Apparently, it seems after years of people just getting rid of their landlines, people have decided they want the landline back. It's happening. So I thought, well, this is a good idea. For those of you watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see this, but I've actually found my little phone here. How's this for a sound? If you grew up in a certain era, probably the 80s, just even that sound will probably be quite triggering. But look, I just popped it under the ear and I'm going to dial my old number as a kid. Oh my God, does that just get you in the feels? Popping the phone down now. That was my old phone number, 242-446, I think, or maybe that was my friend Lucinda's phone number. I can't remember. I only knew two, and I still remember them to this day. But isn't that gorgeous? The home phone is back, and the article was written on the basis of the fact that the phone turns, or the landline, I should say, turns 150 this year. So it's making a comeback. A third of Australia's population still has a landline. I suspect they're probably people over a certain age, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think a lot of younger people are deciding they want the landline back, and they're forcing their kids into going through what we had to go through when we were little, which is having to answer the phone and actually speak to people. Or even worse, when you got a bit older and you wanted to call up someone special and you had to speak to their mum or dad. The humiliation, the terror. You don't have to do that anymore if you've got your own phones and you're texting, but I think it's a good thing. I think that's gorgeous. Get that home phone if you feel so inclined. I think this also too is in the wake of the Optus outages that have happened recently here in Australia, where people that were trying to call 000 couldn't get through. I'm not sure if the landline is any more secure, but I think in our hearts and minds we truly believe that if there's a landline, we can always get through, although I'm not sure that is necessarily the case these days, because I imagine the technology has changed somewhat. But it's nice to know the landline is having a moment. And speaking of people of a certain generation, I'm assuming if you're listening, you would have grown up in a time where we're off for sleepovers all the time at our friends' houses, all the time. These days, it's not so much a thing, and probably for good reason, because you don't really know everybody. You can't be across it all. So sleepovers are a very different experience these days for little kids. But apparently, though, while they may not be the thing that the little kids are doing anymore, it is back for you and me, adults. There is a new trend emerging whereby people are actually having sleepovers with their friends, i.e. not just going out for dinner for a catch-up or saying that they're going to catch up and grabbing a quick coffee or taking a quick walk. This is like real hangout stuff. This is go over to your friend's place and stay the night. I love this because I think what we get from these experiences is actual time spent IRL, but more than that. When you don't have to be somewhere, when you don't have to go somewhere, you're not checking your emails, maybe it's a Saturday night, that allows more time and space for conversations to breathe. It allows for friends to just hang out and be friends again, rather than just this endless catch-up that I don't know, I feel a bit overwhelmed by at the moment. I think I spend more time sending messages saying, I promised, let's catch up soon, than I do actually ever hanging out with anyone. So I feel like this is a great idea. The sleepover is back. I don't know if it means you have to hang out on the couch all night and watch horror movies. I don't really want to do that, nor eat sugar so I can't sleep, because I mean, a sleepover looks very different at this age. It requires a proper bed. It requires sleep masks and actually a good night's sleep as opposed to no sleep. And certainly no horror movies whatsoever. My brain can already do the horror. I don't need. I couldn't do that then, actually, back when I was a kid, when other kids were getting into it. I really struggled. So for kids that grow up in the 80s and 90s, that one is for you. Call up a friend, invite them over for a sleepover. Report back to me. I want to hear how it goes. Looking back to the past is something fashion does all the time, and we've been teetering on the edge of a 2010s fashion return. That's happening. All the looks that were very popular then have come back. Handbags in particular and shoes, the Chloe boot from that era is very much back in the zeitgeist. What I wasn't expecting, though, was the return of a fashion item that became so popular here, it was in fact canonised by one of our very own. And since she wore it, no one else has been able to do it justice, or perhaps no one else wanted to. And what I'm talking about was Kath and Kimmy, our Kimmy, wearing the G-banger that came out the top of a low-backed dress that showed off butt cheeks. That iconic look, which was actually worn originally at the Brownlows by one of the footy players' partners, was magical. It was high on trend. It was very fashion. Anyway, the GQ Awards were held over the weekend, and looks like Hailey Bieber is reigniting the craze for the exposed G-string at the back of a low-slung dress. That was her particular look. They call it an exposed thong. We call it a G-string, a G-banger. It was a beautiful thing, and I think we're going to see more of it on the catwalks. I can't get Kim's version of it out of my head, and I'm not talking Kim Kardashian, although she'll probably be next. The other look that night that piqued my interest was a very simple, monochromatic grey outfit worn by influencer Emma Chamberlain. Now, it doesn't sound that exciting, something grey, a little bit of midriff on show, low slung. There's a split in the skirt. It looks like almost a grey denim material. Quite a sensible look except for one part. The bodice was corseted, and then on top of the bodice she wore what could be described in the same material, a shrug, I guess. You know, those short sort of cape cardigan things that just cover the shoulders. I think that's called a shrug. Correct me if I'm wrong. Send me an email. The email's in the show notes. That all sounds very straightforward to me, but if you go and have a look at the picture, she's actually going braless in between the shrug and the corset. Now, the shrug is modest. It covers the bits you want to cover, i.e. the nipples, if anyone finds that offensive. I don't. But what she does have on display is something I never thought would make it. I know that there's been underboob on display with bikinis for some time, and the underboob has had a moment, but I wasn't expecting it in what looks to be smart casual attire. Not quite formal, smart casual. The corset with the underboob and then the shrug. So the underboob is exposed, hanging over the top of the corset. So if this is a smart casual look, I mean, it could be worn to work. I don't know how you would do that at work. If you had to lean over somebody while you're looking at their work on their computer. Oh. But it's fabulous for women of a certain age who are particularly sweaty, perhaps, perspiring a lot. I mean, airing out that under area. This could be the thing we've all been hoping for. Is this what we need to demand from our bosses? That we can just let our under boob, spelt B-E-W-B, let our under boob out? Maybe fashion has found us the solution. And I'm very grateful for that. Whether or not it's legal, that's the other question. I don't think anyone wants to see me in that at work either. There were more awards held over the weekend as well, and awards that I wasn't familiar with until today. The Bambi Awards. Now, this all sounds very, very cute. It's got nothing to do with the deer. They are awards in Germany, held in Germany annually, and they are a media awards event. So I dug a little deeper, recognising excellence in international media and television and personalities. It is kind of, from what I can gather, a melange of what we know as our Logies and our arias. It's the German version of that mixed in together. So they are acknowledging German excellence in media and also international excellence. And Australia's own Cate Blanchett was honoured. She walked away with the International Actor Award. But what was interesting is that she made an incredibly bold fashion choice, which I think looked incredible. She arrived in the colour of violet. Yes, it was a violet dress. And it was like a structured corset mini, I guess you could call it. And then over the top was this new material, because our Cate is always ecologically minded when it comes to her fashion. What was covering it was what looked to be animal feathers. And animal feathers, of course, are incredibly frowned upon these days. In fact, they've even been banned from certain catwalks. I think in most catwalks, they don't allow animal feathers anymore. This was a brand new Stella McCartney number from Spring-Summer 2026 from the ready-to-wear collection, although I'm not sure how ready this was to wear. I think this would just be leaving feathers or imitation feathers everywhere. The feathers are made of the world's first plant-based alternative to feathers, which has been crafted with the help of UK-based materials innovation band Feathers. It looks fabulous. It looks like either seaweed underwater as if it's moving, or it looks like she's stuck her finger in a socket, in a power socket. It's all gone a bit haywire. Looks a little bit like hair before you get struck by lightning. Now, our gal fashion critical has also suggested that the feathers remind her of one of the Muppets' hair. I think, is that Gonzo? Yeah, it's Gonzo. The little wisps of hair on the top of his head is not unlike, and is in fact the same hue as Cate Blanchett's dress. But yes, 10 points to everybody all round. No animals were killed. Kate's been busy too. I guess when in Europe, you do all the countries. You go to Germany for the Bambi Awards, and then you head off to the Vatican for a meeting with the Pope. That's exactly what she did. The Pope has just had an audience with Hollywood stars, including Kate, Viggo Mortensen and Monica Bellucci, amongst others. Many directors as well. Spike Lee was there too. The Pope wanted them to gather round, admire the red shoes, and urge them in an age of AI to continue their work as pilgrims of the imagination and help to bring hope, which is nice, isn't it? It was also a show of support from the Pope for the global film industry. He mentioned things like the troubling decline of cinema going. And then he told us about his favourite movies. Good to know. Thank you, Pope. The Sound of Music, of course. Oh, It's a Wonderful Life. The one that gets an airing every Christmas. That is actually quite depressing. And an Italian film, of course. I'm sure he felt the need to slot in an Italian film into his faves because he lives in Italy now. Roberto Benigni's multi-award-winning and beautiful film Life is Beautiful is on the list. So alongside the ones I've already mentioned, Chris Pine was there, Gus Van Sant. It's an eclectic bunch, isn't it? A few Italian directors and actors as well. But continuing on his support cinema vibe, he warned against the closure of cinemas, which he characterised as the beating heart of communities. I mean, that's a lovely thought. I'm not sure if your old Hoyt's multiplex is a beating heart of our community, but especially when popcorn's $27 a bucket. But yes, I do agree with him here. They can be the beating heart of communities. We've just got to support them a little bit more. So he gave a 15-minute speech urging all institutions not to give up, to continue being creative, to ensure that the cinematic experience is no longer in danger, and to keep affirming the social and cultural value of this activity. This is high on his list. He then gave everybody a blessing, as is his wont, and then he received each audience member, which included our Kate. So she met the Pope. Goodness me. And she came out of it saying, he really urged us to go back into our day jobs and inspire people. And this is good. It is important to continue telling stories through film, through many, many mediums, through novels, through art, because this is what we've done since the beginning of time. And the rise of AI is concerning. I think at the moment we have, and this is not about cinema, but it's about popular music. I think there are 3 artists in the Spotify top 100 at this very moment who are not human. I might go into that on another podcast, I think. And I think it is time to really lean into the creativity that can only come from our very, very interesting brains, our very creative brains. Because the one thing I've noticed from using AI from a personal experience is it's fine if you give it good instructions and you need information collated quickly. It's helpful, it works. But it's got no taste. It's got no nuance. It's a bit needy too. I hope he's not listening. I call him Herbert, mine. He's always coming up with far too many suggestions and I'm just like, back off. Just back off a little bit. What if he's listening to me? I'm very polite to Herbert. Herbert can't do what we can do, at least not yet, and I don't think they ever will be able to. They can ingest all the information they need, but the thing that gives what we love is that human spark. It is the magic dust. It's wild what we can do as humans, and I think it is important. And look, it's not often I would say I agree with stances of the Pope. In fact, organised religion in general, not my bag. However, I do think that we need to support the creative output of our fellow creatives because it's the magic, it's the spark, it's the magic dust, it's the twinkle in the eye. It's all of those things that a machine I hope will never be able to do. Rather than the thought of AI taking over, that perhaps, we can utilise its tools, but that we actually start to revel in what we are capable of as human beings. So thanks, Pope. Of course, the conservative press about the Pope having an audience with Hollywood types. How dare he? Hasn't he got other things to do, better things to do? Because how dare a religious leader actually enjoy creativity? And I think it's ironic, given the Vatican is the home to what was, in 1470, the film of their time. Yep. We're talking about the absolute masterpiece of Renaissance art, Michelangelo's ceiling frescoes, which depict biblical narratives, particularly from the book of Genesis. So it is a visual medium through which a story is told, very much like film. So if the conservative media want to keep getting their knickers in a twist about the Pope fraternising with the woke Hollywood elite, just remember what those people do, and that is tell stories, which is what's on the roof of the Vatican, and it is what we human beings have been doing since the beginning of time, and we do it fucking well. So let's support it. He's got a point. A little bit more awards news for you. The Screen Actors Guild Awards, an American awards ceremony that honours actors, is getting a brand new name. We all know it as the SAG Awards. And look, to be fair, it's not the best name. It doesn't sound alive or like it's about to kick off, or it's like SAG. It's now going to be known as the Actor Awards. I can already see a problem. It'll be the Actor Awards presented by SAG-AFTRA, which is the labour union that represents the US film, television and radio actors. But we have our own Actor Awards here in Australia. They've just signed up to be holding their awards on the Gold Coast for the next couple of years. This is awesome news because sometimes Spicks and Specs gets nominated. I get to go to the Gold Coast just for a night. I don't think we're nominated this year, so I probably won't be going. However, they are different awards too. The Actor Awards, it's spelled AACTA and it's not actor, because the Actor Awards in Australia acknowledge a lot of the technical and production side as well. And they put it into two ceremonies. Very, very busy for the creatives. Everyone in the industry calls it the relaxed Logies. Like it's actually where people go to have fun and really enjoy themselves because it's on the Gold Coast. Why not? Prepare to be confused by the actors and the actors in the near future. And just a couple of tidbits before I wind on out of here today. A little Portishead update for you. I know, haven't thought of Portishead for a while. Incredible group from Manchester in the UK who gave us exquisite albums. They were kind of lumped in the trip-hop genre, but I think they almost created their own genre, really. It was bleak beats, wasn't it? Their record Dummy came out in 1994 and it blew people's minds. it was incredible. It was very much a musical moment for a lot of us, a formative early musical moment. It introduced a lot of people to sounds that were coming out of the UK at the time, and they went essentially mainstream to a certain extent. So lots of people had the record Dummy, a record that actually won the 1995 Mercury Music Prize, so critically acclaimed as well. Jeff Barrow from the group, in response to finding out a bit of information about how people listen to Dummy, and he's not happy. He said, I've heard that people were going out doing ecstasy, coming back, smoking spliffs and putting Dummy on. If you just listen to the music, you'd think that's really chilled, man, Jeff said in an interview recently with The Guardian. And then he's gone on to say, however, the worst thing that anyone can say about my music is that it's chilled. So don't ever call it chilled. That makes me throw up. Not want to throw up, he said. Throw up. He then continued, they're only listening to Beth Gibbons' voice, not what she's saying, which makes a huge difference. I've had people actually say, my daughter over there was made to your music. I don't think any musician ever wants to hear that. If you think that that's an okay thing to tell somebody, because automatically they're going to look at you, they're going to look at them, and they're going to look at you back, and they're going to go, yuck, I don't want to think about you like that. Especially to something I poured my heart and soul into. I mean, I know you had a small child and that's your heart and soul, but we don't want to think about the activity that got you there. Anyway, he's of that mind as well, and he said, I'm like, fuck off. I can't think of anything worse to make love to. And he should know. She's bleak, she's dark, she's Portishead. Say it as you see it, Jeff Barrow, and I wholeheartedly agree. Adele announced after her Las Vegas residency that she would be giving up music. I'm not sure if it's for good or if it's for the foreseeable future. Unaware as to the full details of that. However, it looks like she's back in the spotlight in a different way. She's coming back, and I'm happy about that because she's quite the personality. And I know that it might not be through song, and it's not. She's going to be making her acting debut, and I'd be so happy to see her on the big screen. I think she's just remarkable as a singer, of course, but I think as a person, she's incredibly engaging and warm, and I think she's going to slot in quite beautifully to this film. Okay, she's coming back not for music. She's going to be acting in a brand new film by fashion designer and filmmaker Tom Ford, who, if you ever got to see his brilliant film, oh, please, A Single Man, which came out in 2009, go and do that. Go and do that. Anyway, he is currently in the process of adapting Anne Rice's 1982 sexually charged novel, It's Saucy, which is about castrated opera singers, or castrati as they were known in the day. And also entangled in this is feuding aristocrats in 18th century Italy. How good! Cameras are set to start rolling in London and Rome in January. Maybe they're going to film at the Vatican. Who knows? Maybe there's a tie in here. And hopefully the film will be out next autumn. So I cannot wait for this because the castrati were like the superstars of their time. And look, if you don't know what castrati is, it was a male singer, operatic, obviously, given the time, who underwent castration before puberty to retain a high soprano or contralto voice. And it was popular from the 16th to 18th century, and it allowed them to achieve extraordinary vocal range and power, and also the absence of puberty allowed them a larger lung capacity too, which gave them an ability to sing for extended periods. They were very popular at a time when women were also forbidden from performing on stage in opera and church choirs, and they were essential for filling in the high vocal parts of the woman. You may have seen the movie Farinelli. Do you remember that? I've decided to roll my R's when I say it because, I've been saying Rosalia. Farinelli. It was a wonderful movie about a castrato singer. So this will be a very, very interesting film, I think, very, very lush in terms of set design and interiors, as all of Tom Ford's movies are. Colin Firth is cast, Mark Strong, Nicholas Hoult, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Tanduay Newton, Paul Bettany and Owen Cooper from Adolescence. And I think it's going to be fabulous. And I think Adele will be fabulous. And if she's singing in this, we'll all lose our minds. Love it. And before I wind up with these moments that you need to know about today, I just want to give a shout out to Lily Allen, whose record has been incredibly well received and good on her. She's bared her soul and given the world a breakup record that is kind of, I think, unsurpassed in terms of the level of honesty. David Harbour, the ex, is obviously staying silent on the matters. And if you want to hear my take on all of that, you can go back to earlier episodes of The Moment. But she posted a photo of a bunch of flowers on social media, and this was lovely. And in the post, she mentioned that she thanked the person who sent the flowers to her, but she said only one person has sent her flowers after the release of her album. Would have thought more, but then again, David would have been the one to send her flowers, so he's obviously not allowed to contact her in any way, shape or form. Anyway, she made reference to this, which I think is odd, like, do we send flowers anymore? Do people send flowers? I hope they do. There's nothing better than receiving a bunch of flowers to celebrate a moment. But the best bit about what she wrote, she said that the florist that was used was called Fanny Saga. What a great name for a florist. Fanny Saga. Very appropriate for Lily Allen's tale as well. We've all had a Fanny Saga, haven't we? All right, that's it. I'm done. Hope you've enjoyed that. I certainly have. As usual, I have a lot of thoughts, more thoughts than I think when I begin. Just a little FYI about what's coming up this week on The Moment, on the following episodes. These are good. I'll be looking into that viral article that came from Vogue that goes by the headline, "Having a Boyfriend is Embarrassing Now." Okay. It's a headline that has grabbed a lot of people's attention and caused quite the controversy, probably mostly from people who didn't read beyond the headline. Yes, the headline is catchy, but in actual fact, it's more about a movement of younger heterosexual women who are not necessarily decentering men and saying they're not having boyfriends at all. Rather, they're just not making their relationship with their partner the main event, mostly online when they share their life. They're not sharing their boyfriends anymore. And there's a reason and there's a shift culturally in that. We're going to go into that with Gemma Speg because she's obviously more of that generation who are still out there, still dating. Not to say that people of our generation aren't still dating. They are. In fact, it's very, very healthy. So I think you're going to be interested in that one. And speaking of controversy, I'll also take a look at what happened when the New York Times ran with the headline, "Did Women Ruin the Workplace?" Whew, cue alarm, cue anger, and many, many, many women cancelling their New York Times subscriptions. I'll be extrapolating on that a little more on Thursday with Big Small Talks Hannah Ferguson. So lots coming up this week here on The Moment. And I'm going to run something on Friday called The Moment Presents. And I might do this on the regular. It's where I'll give you a little bonus podcast in your feeds that I think you might be interested in. And since the ARIA Awards are on Wednesday night here in Australia, and a band that many of us adored and have adored since they started in the 90s, UMI are being inducted into the ARIA Hall of Fame. And I've got a little UMI flavoured treat for you on Friday in your podcast feeds, okay? So no hints. You'll just have to check your feed on Friday if it comes up and celebrate the ARIA accolade for UMI. It is a treat. It's quite special. That's all coming up this week. Hope you've enjoyed. I'll be back tomorrow. Just got to call my mum to come and pick me up. You know what, though? If households are going back to the landline, just as an aside, like how much are mobile calls these days? Because they were hugely expensive. Are they still that way on a landline? Can anyone help? If you've got a landline, I love the idea, but are mobile phone calls expensive? That's what I want to know because it took me years to pay off some of those bills. Bye. This is an MIK-made production recorded on Wurundjeri land. Always was and always will be Aboriginal land.